On your Tuesday episode of Locked On Raptors, in a game against the Bulls where the Raptors looked terrible, they almost pulled a comeback, but with Jakob Poeltl hurt, the tank is about to get real unethical.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Tuesday, December the 17th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. We cover the Toronto Raptors now for 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. We're on Instagram with the show channel. Oh my god, my brain already not good. It's flu game day. Great. You can find me on Instagram at Locked On Raptors. You can join the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. It's a great place to come hang out with sickos just like you who love the Raptors, want to talk ball day or night. You can also, of course, support the daily and free Locked On Raptors newsletter. It goes right to your inbox for the low price of On the House. All you got to do is go to the QR code on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, or to the link in the description of the podcast if you're listening on an audio app of your choosing. Click through, put your email in, and you will get the Locked On Raptors newsletter sent to you every single day. We're over 500 subs over there. It's awesome. Thanks to all who have subscribed, and let's keep it rolling, shall we? Today's show is brought to you by the college football playoffs. The college football playoffs are here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The college football playoff presented by Allstate begins with 4 first-round games, December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. All right, let's get rolling. On today's show, we are talking about the Toronto Raptors falling 122-121 to the Chicago Bulls on Monday night in a game so bad that I got sick watching it. We are here. We're going to dig into our big takeaways from the fourth quarter near comeback with a bizarro crew filling in for an injured Jakob Poeltl. The Jakob Poeltl injury, of course, is something of note, and we've got the good, the bad, and the to roll through as well. And here to carry the day, as my voice inevitably fails at some point in the next 30 minutes, is our pal, BigV, Vivek Jacob. Have you been working on your boisterous hays in case you need to fill in for me? Oh no, you're muted. I'm not cutting this out because that's just good, bad podcasting. Hey. That's the podcast. Thanks for hanging, everybody. Bye-bye. Big V's right here. Thank God. So... like I said, we will get into the, I think, general listlessness of most of this game for the Raptors before that near fourth quarter comeback. But let's start with the fourth quarter comeback because it was pretty fun. It almost turned into a win for the Raptors, who win the fourth quarter 37-27 after kind of getting spanked by the Bulls in the previous 36 minutes. In this quarter, Jakob Poeltl goes down early, and we will get into the ramifications of that. It sucks. It's bad. There's no real good silver lining to be had out of this unless you're a little sicko who just counts lottery balls and doesn't care about humans or actual basketball being played or functionality. But Big V, let's talk about the close to this game. You had RJ Barrett guiding the ship 32-5-9. Gradey Dick having himself a game, emptying the clip. He goes 9 of 20 overall, but I think his sort of diversity of scoring in this game was super impressive. You know, a lot of really interesting 2-point buckets in the first half, and then turns that into a couple of big-time threes down the stretch. Jamal Shead gets some awesome run in this one as well. A really good fourth quarter showing from him after playing 40 minutes in the G League the day before on the road. Impressive stuff there. Jonathan Mogbo in there as well. Ochai Agbaji, Jakob Poeltl also split time on the wings. Look, I think this is probably the type of thing you can expect with Jakob Poeltl out, is once in a while they'll stumble onto a lineup that's pretty fun and get some stuff done. But ultimately, the shortcomings of not having Jakob Poeltl, on top of, not having Scotty Barnes and Emmanuel Quickley as well, are going to leave the Raptors coming up short in most of the games they have on deck. Maybe not Thursday against the very bad Dennis Schroederless Nets. But overall impressions of that near comeback, Big V, the ways in which maybe you felt the absence of Yak, the things that were interesting about that lineup, what you got for me?
Yeah, I mean, first off, hats off to Jamal Shead coming through in for him a back-to-back situation and not playing the first 3 quarters, and then he gets the full run in the fourth. I'm not sure where I stand on Darko being like, yeah, we were trying to load manage a 22-year-old that would
Sure.
absolutely love to play every chance he gets at the NBA level right now. But yeah, when he came in, I just thought, his energy, his intensity, those are the things that stand out. I think obviously it did help that Josh Giddey was no longer in the game. I thought that was a big factor in the comeback that Bulls just did not seem to be able to initiate offense in any kind of way. And I thought that helped the Raptors defense. Gradey Dick, yeah, the shot making was awesome. Like you highlighted, first half versus second half, and then yeah, just knocking down those threes. It was nice to see him knock down some big threes late. I know he's missed a few this season, so to get into that final 2-minute stretch where he's knocking down those big shots, that was really good to see. RJ had some nice moments, some questionable moments, bit of a mixed bag, I would say, but obviously, again, when Scotty's not there, he's taking on more than is probably ideal for him, especially from a playmaking standpoint. So you gotta, there's gonna be some give and take there. Overall, another positive night for him in terms of the free throw shooting.
Yeah. A couple big ones late too. Yeah.
8 for 9 on the night. So you take that. And yeah, I thought in the end, I felt pretty weird at the end of the game because it was like, yeah, there was this fun comeback. But the Yak injury, the way the first half played out, pretty much most of the first 3 quarters played out, I was pretty discouraged with the performance to the point where I was like, I don't really care to take too much from this, fake comeback.
Yeah, I mean, look, as far as like salvaging the fun quotient on the night, they did, I think, a pretty good job of that. The building was pretty electric despite being kind of empty in the bottom bowl. Those Gradey threes really, got the place juiced up. That was great to see. And there was some fun to be had from a game that did not seem like it was going to give any fun through 3 quarters. But yeah, I think the Yak thing just kind of hung over everything. And I do think the way they ultimately lost this game was indicative of what their struggles are going to be without Jakob Poeltl, right? I think in particular, they just couldn't handle Nikola Vucevic size-wise. Like, this is what happens when your backup center is Jonathan Mogbo, and I think he's perfectly capable of being a backup center. But when you close him against Nikola Vucevic, who's playing super well this season and is an enormous man, you're going to run into some issues with size. I think credit to Gradey. He was awesome on the glass in this game. He grabbed 6 boards, second highest on the team behind Chris Boucher. Had a couple big boards late, kind of gang rebounding when they were super small and needed that extra juice from the wings. That was great. But I think in particular, the way they guarded the Bulls did not really agree with the strategy. It was a pretty switch-heavy scheme. And I asked Darko Rajakovic after the game sort of what he's made so far of Jonathan Mogbo when he plays the 5 and what he's liked, what he needs to work on. And the thing he mentioned liking was that he switches everything and he can switch 1 through 5 and be pretty effective with it. But don't think that really held up in this game. They kind of needlessly switched, I thought, in a lot of situations. This is old man, like I'm a high school or elementary basketball school coach take. Like, you don't need to concede the switch every single time. Like, fighting through and actually playing straight up defense is okay. And I think in particular, when Jonathan Mogbo is your only guy with any shot size-wise because of his length, I think conceding those easy switches where all of a sudden Mobo's on the perimeter guarding Lonzo Ball, who did hit a big 3 in this game, but ultimately I think he finished, 2 of 9 in this game overall. You're not too worried about him shooting. Yeah, he was 2 of 9 overall. Like, you're fine to let it rip. And if he has a second to pull up because a guy's fighting over a screen, I think live with that. I would much prefer that than Mogbo switching onto Ball and then either RJ Barrett or Jamal Shead getting switched onto Vooch on the back end and getting punished with a deep seal and an easy bucket, which happened like 3 different times in this, or 2 different times, sorry. At 110-102, you had Mogbo on Vucevic. They run a pick and roll. He then switches on to Ball, and then I think it's RJ switches on, or it was RJ in the first time. Easy bucket for Vooch. Another possession later, they don't switch anything. That Vooch is not involved in the screening action. And then Mogbo gets a nice stop at the rim because he's long and forces the miss. But then there was a switch where Kobe White blows by Mogbo and he couldn't stay in front of him in space. And then you have one where Jamal Shead gets completely wiped off the floor by a deep seal by Vucevic, and it's an easy bucket down the stretch to kind of put it away. And that, to me, was like where you miss Jakob Poeltl, where they're going to miss just having size, functional size. Guys are okay playing heavy minutes who have functional size. Sorry, no shade to Bruno Fernando, but there's a reason we didn't see him in this game. I think it's just he's just not that effective. And so that's, to me, sort of the prevailing takeaway here is it was fun. It was an exciting little stretch, but the things that went wrong, I think, portend more things that are going to go wrong as Jakob Poeltl misses time. Any parting thoughts on the Jakob Poeltl injury and anything we saw in this game down the stretch?
No, I mean, I'm with you. I think, we've seen over the course of the season that he's had a huge impact and he's been a huge positive on the floor. I think, when Scotty got hurt, I was like, oh, let's go back to Jakob Poeltl mode. Because you look at the roster and that right now, in terms of who's available, who's healthy, getting the ball to him in the paint is probably the most efficient look you can get.
Yep.
And so I think it's going to be tough to function without that. I think even when we talk about RJ's playmaking improvement, like so much of that is playing off of Yak, right? And I think that's going to make life difficult. I think there's been, handoffs, screening handoffs where, the Raptors have kind of been able to stay in motion and create advantages that way. That is going to be lost. And then defensively, he's been a leader. I think he's toughed it out as much as he can. Obviously, he had the back spasms the other night in Miami, and he could have easily just like sat that one out and no one would have said anything. Yeah. And he gutted through it. So that if he's going to miss time, it's going to be for very legit reasons.
Yeah. And groin injury, I would classify as very legit reason. Darko said last night they'll be doing imaging. He was pretty tender and sore afterwards. I'm glad he walked off as easily as it seemed like he did after laying down in the fetal position for as long as he was when it first happened. So that's good, I guess. But, groin injuries, we've seen it. Pascal Siakam's had one. DeMar DeRozan back in the day. Like, these things can linger. These things can carry on. So hopefully it's not too long, but I think prepare for the worst and hope for the best is probably the best way to go forward here with Jakob Poeltl. Those who are like, got to trade Yak because he's so important for the tank. You're about to get what you wished for without a trade for a second here. It's going to suck. It's not going to be fun. It might be more fun than it was last year just because there's more young guys to root for and all that. But without Scotty and Yak, this is going to get real ugly real quick, I fear. We're going to come back on the other side, talk about things that were real ugly in this game last night, even before Jakob Poeltl went down, which was basically the entirety of the first three quarters. We'll do that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, where you can get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you're watching the game on a Sunday with some pals, you get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can, flex your knowledge to your pals, check out the latest stats and view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your $5 bet. Maybe you're a little sicko who wants to put some money down on Raptors-Nets on Thursday. Why you would do this, I don't know. But if you want to go and do that, the Raptors are pretty good at covering the spread. They did again last night, thanks to Jamal Shead's big three at the end. Maybe you go throw some money down on the Raptors to cover, even without all their good players. The Nets, as it turns out, don't have any good players, so maybe you'll win that bet. Either way, visit FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Back at it here with our pal BigV, Vivek Jacob from Raptors in 7 and Sportsnet, where he covers the NBA at large. Of course, Raptors in 7, a wonderful newsletter. The newsletter boys yakking here on the pod on a Tuesday, baby. All right, let's talk about the listlessness, shall we? First three quarters to me, Big V, this was like the first time all year that it felt like they didn't really care about a basketball game, which, hey, you're allowed off nights. You're allowed to not feel it. You're allowed to not have it. But it was like the most eerily like the last month and a half of last year that any game has been so far. Some of the lineups were eerily like the end of last year. Gradey Dick, Garrett Temple, Kelly Olynyk, Davion Mitchell, like getting real weird, getting real not great in terms of the overall talent level on the floor. Tough one for Kelly Olynyk overall. This one did feel like, as far as games where they're just getting cardio in, this was the most cardio heavy game of the season to date. Not a fun one to watch, not a fun one to be in person at for long stretches as well. And like the Bulls, I mean, to make the Bulls look that impressive for stretches, like you gotta want more for yourself than that. I know the Raptors are in dire straits health wise, but the Bulls stink out loud, and they are like the least interesting team in the NBA. You got to bring it a little bit more than that. Big V, what were your thoughts on the general state of not caring that seemed like it was plaguing the team for 36 minutes in this one?
Yeah, first off, it's funny, you mentioned that lineup. There was one play where I think Davion was scampering for an offensive rebound, and then Kelly just like tapped it to the Bulls and then they went on a break. And I was like, that has to be the most tank play.
This one's for you.
And I was like, okay, it's gonna be that kind of night. But coming into this game, so we know the Bulls shoot a lot of threes.
Sure do.
And we know the Raptors don't. But we knew that the Raptors should have a theoretical advantage scoring in the paint.
Yeah.
The Bulls give up a ton of points in the paint. I believe it's 57 a game on average, and the Raptors are pretty good at scoring in the paint. So I was like, hey man, just hammer at that and get your efficient looks that way. And then, if you're at a point where you can create enough of a ruckus that you're able to, kick it out and get outside looks, then great. But none of that matters if you just show up like, you're just going through a walkthrough. And that's kind of what it looked like. And the transition defense was abysmal. Like and we've seen this a couple of times now in recent times where opponents are scoring within 3 seconds of the Raptors getting the ball in the bucket.
Yep.
We saw that multiple
game. And
yeah.
And
so this was a prime example too, where I was just like, that just can't, there's absolutely no way. Like, injuries are not an excuse for that.
Yeah.
Like there's no way you can have that happen. And so, Darko calling all those timeouts, just trying to get them to kind of muster something up and show some level of investment. I think that was just really, really frustrating to watch. And yeah, like I said, man, you live with, looking like you're running through mud on offense, and struggling with that because of all the bodies that are missing. But and to an extent, I can understand that, okay, you don't have Quickly, you don't have Scotty. There's going to be some turnovers that lead to fast breaks that probably wouldn't happen if they're around. But at the same time, when you see, again, made buckets by you resulting in a bucket within 3 seconds, that was just unacceptable.
Yeah, man. Like, look, I'm not calling the alarms and saying the effects of losing a lot of games are seeping in and they don't care anymore, because they clearly still care. The fourth quarter was evidence of that. I think, again, sometimes you're going to have nights where you just can't find it. Darko talked about last night, just sort of, I guess we'll try Garrett Temple because nothing else is working type of thing, which fair enough. And maybe not the guy I would have tried, but hey, the last time he played Garrett Temple, they went on like a 13-1 run with him. So maybe you try to go back to that well. Not sure they go back to that well again. But yeah, like in general, just the sort of atrophy of losing is a thing. And the sort of way it kind of saps your spirit. We saw this happen with the team last year. And it's not really any faults of their own either at times, right? Like, I can understand just human nature wise, it's deflating to keep losing all your best players, keep losing really close games that you hang tight in. And this is the downside of building a team that loses a lot of games, and doing it by design is, things happen that kind of cause the gameplay to sort of spiral out of control. and it's not really effective developmental basketball anymore. It's just kind of basketball for the sake of basketball. And look, again, I'm not saying that's happening just yet. And there is still the hope of guys returning and Scotty and, doing eyeball emojis about IQ and Bruce and when they're going to be back. Like, this is not last year where you knew from the start of March, oh, season's done, everyone's gone for the year. Like, this is something that can still be salvaged and there can still be fun, competitive, even winning basketball played this season. But I can understand if the sort of try hard ethos is maybe waning a little bit as the losses continue to pile up, 5 in a row now. And, the schedule is not getting any easier. You got the Nets and then a bunch of really tough games between now and sort of mid-January. We'll see where it all shakes out. Hopefully they can get some help. Hopefully the light sort of breaks in the schedule, help them sort of not miss guys for as many games as they could in a more compact stretch of the schedule. But this is the risk you run when you set your team up to quote unquote rebuild and lose a lot of games. And you just hope that there aren't lasting sort of bad habits that seep in and become really tough to shake. It's really hard to stop being terrible. Ask the Washington Wizards. I think the thing too for me in this game that sort of spoke to their lack of juice was also their offense. Like, they got their assists, they did their thing. There was some nice stretches late in this game, but I thought in general, like particularly the Bulls ran a lot of zone in this game, and the Raptors just had no idea of what to do, and they took forever to just have anything develop in those possessions against the zone, where it's like over dribble, wait for a guy to move, wait for a guy to flash, wait for a screen, and then by this, all of a sudden, there's like 11 on the clock. They haven't really done anything yet, and they're forcing and rushing and not getting good looks. It was just like very listless, very lifeless. Again, that's not what you want to see. And again, I understand their zone busting is taking a hit. You don't have Scotty Barnes' passing to pick things apart. You don't have Emmanuel quickly to pull things off from the top. But there's still Gradey Dick. There's still Jakob Poeltl. There's still guys who can get it up. Kelly Olynyk. And it just felt like they had no ideas of how to pick apart that Bulls zone. It's the Bulls zone. Like, it's not exactly like rocket science to try to pick apart the Chicago Bulls defense, but it sure was for the Raptors. And you just hope this stuff doesn't continue. You hope it's just a one-off night. But certainly, when you're 7-20, there's always the risk that this stuff becomes the norm, which is not what you want, especially this early in the season, with plenty of important games and reps still to be had as the season progresses. We're going to come back on the other side here, Big V, get into our good, bad, and that was squeaky from the Raptors loss to the Bulls to close things out. Jamal Shead, he was very cool. We'll get to that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is sponsored by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Today's show is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Did you know Rocket Money can help you find your subscriptions you forgot about or were paying for even twice? It happens. People have subscriptions for a million different things and you forget you've subscribed to things. I've once subscribed to it was during COVID. I subscribed to an e-card site. It cost me like $50 a year to send Christmas cards to all my sad family members around the holidays. And I forgot to unsubscribe for like 2 years. I was just paying this company for e-cards I wasn't using. Rocket Money is the personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It helps bring together everything in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. That's pretty sweet. The subscription tracker is huge. I subscribe to things. I've subscribed to like podcasts, and I want to subscribe to a website to read an article, and then I don't want to keep on subscribing to it because I want to subscribe to different websites, and I don't have all the money in the world to subscribe to 1,000 websites. Rocket Money can help manage all that. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Wrapping it up here with Big V, Vivek Jacob, as we continue to dive into the Toronto Raptors loss to the Bulls, 122-121 to fall to 7-20 on the season. It wasn't so long ago, 7-15 and on the upswing the Raptors were, and yet here we are now. Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl out of the lineup. We're having a great time over here. Let's get to the good, the bad, and the a thing we liked, thing we didn't like, a thing that's got us a wee bit intrigued from the latest Toronto Raptors basketball game, the way we wrap up every single game recap episode of the pod. Let's go to the good. We have the same good this time, Big V. I will let you wax poetic on Jamal Shead. What you got?
Yeah, man, I just thought, when he went through that stretch where he was struggling, just couldn't seem to found that level in the beginning of the season where he was great, and it was like, oh my God, Jamal Shead. And then it seemed like he was found out a little bit.
Sure.
And I think then, we saw a bit of a struggle with the jumper. Then the jumper came along, and he was making a few. And then to have a night like this where, maybe it really helped that he just got those 40 minutes the night before, and he's, really feeling ready to go. And I thought, in a situation where it's like, hey, this team has had nothing all night. And, when you're watching from the sidelines and you can see those listless plays and what you bring to the table, I thought he was a perfect fit for what was needed on this night. And so to come in, just play with the energy that he had, and kind of, in Kyle Lowry fashion, go balls to the wall, I thought was awesome.
Prorated. The guy puts up 40 points, 16 rebounds, and 24 assists per 48 minutes in this game. Pretty good stuff. Rookie of the year? No. But yeah, all jokes aside, he was really excellent. And I think for me, look, man, I know I kind of am sort of on the far end of not enjoying the Davion Mitchell experience all that much. This hammered it home a little bit further. This was a really rough game for Mitchell. 3 turnovers to 4 assists. All the turnovers felt kind of backbreaking. The on-ball defense just was not what it typically is up to the standard that he is throwing out there. And on those nights, like, I have no problem just saying, hey, we're not going to do the closing time Davion Mitchell thing again. Let's just roll Jamal Shead out there. And he played absolutely well enough to earn every single one of those 12 fourth quarter minutes. And he's, again, like, it's green, it's raw. Rookie point guards are always bad. This is what happens. Like, it's a really hard league to adjust to unless you're supremely ultra talented. It's going to take some time for you to get accustomed to running NBA offense and the speed of the game and the picking your spots and the setting the table for others. And I do think Jamal Shead has a lot of that kind of innately in him. He's a winning ass player from his time in Houston. You can tell the passing vision with him is just, it's next level when it comes to sort of second round rookies in particular. It's really impressive stuff. The fouling is too much. He's a little overzealous on defense, sure, but the flashes continue to show me, like, I don't think the ceiling on Jamal Shead is necessarily all that high, but long time, really dependable backup point guard feels very much there for him, which is a steal with the 45th pick in the draft. And, again, I'm fine to watch Mitchell play as they sort of, give Shead some G League time and all of that. But I wrote about this yesterday in the newsletter, talking about Davion Mitchell when it comes to the trade deadline. I am not attached to Davion Mitchell going forward because Jamal Shead is right there to fill in that player archetype going into next season. And I think a game like this kind of encapsulates just how effective he can one day be in that role, hopefully on a more consistent basis than it's been so far. But yeah, really good stuff from Jamal Shead. The bad, I'll go first here. RJ Barrett had some pretty bad sequences of being the leading man down the stretch in this game. And look, I know sometimes I rag on RJ too hard, and he's in a job that he is not going to be asked to do when this team is at full health and fully functional. But this is the burden of being a leading man, and your decision-making has a domino effect to everybody else on the floor when you are the guy who's controlling the offense. And I thought there were just a couple moments in this game where RJ did not quite have the proper feel or sense of the moment of sort of what the team needed at the time. One, Gradey Dick hits his second three, or first three might have been. Either way, he hits a big three. It's 108-102, and the building's going crazy. comes back the other way, and RJ just takes this really kind of ill-advised early clock, sort of contested above the break three. It misses, and then tracking back, he just fouls Nikola Vucevic near like the elbow in transition. Off ball, puts Chicago in the bonus, kind of kills the vibe for a second. And that just, to me, was just not a good understanding of the buttons you got to press as the leading man. And then there were a couple of other possessions, Big V, where it was just like he comes up, there's no action. It was sort of like he decided at the start of the possession, this is one for me. I'm going to score here, which fair enough. He's the best scorer on the team right now. But I don't think he quite really massaged those possessions for what they could have gotten. And he just instead just sort of dove headlong, takes a screen or doesn't take a screen, drives in, and the Bulls kind of smother his drives with 2 or 3 guys. He gets blocked on one. He misses another one in 2 sort of junctures late in this game. And that's just the sort of decision-making stuff. You know, he had 6 turnovers in this game. There were some pretty tough ones from him. You know, that's the stuff those are the limitations of him as a leading man. And again, I don't want to sound too down. He scored really well in this game. They don't, you know, push this game close without RJ's contributions. But if we're talking about him in the leading man role, those are the issues that pop up and sort of suggest why he's better as like the third guy in this Raptors attack, you know, finishing plays as opposed to creating them. What was your bad?
My bad. I came into this game expecting a really good night for Jonathan Mogbo. I thought this was a good matchup for him. I thought, you know, he would kind of thrive in this type of atmosphere where, you know, the Bulls like to play with pace and, you know, even with the switchability, I thought that something that he would, looking at the matchups, whether you're looking at Josh Giddey, whether you're looking at Dosunmu, whether you're looking at Vucevic, you know, I thought it's like, yeah, he can handle all of this. And it was just a really tough night for him. You talk about the listlessness. He was a part of that. I felt watching that first half, especially. And so disappointing night for him. And, you know, I think he's someone who, what's been so impressive about him as a rookie is the fact that he's been able to string together game after game after game, where he's been really effective. And so, you know, this being maybe his first bad of the season is you know, real credit to him and the way and the season that he's had. So yeah, all in all, just a rough night for him, but you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's been a really, really good season.
He's going to get a whole lot of opportunity with no Jakob Poeltl, I'll tell you that. You know, closed that game, played. Did he play all 12 minutes in the fourth? Close to it. And yeah, like he's their backup center. He's probably going to start at center now, and they're going to try to roll out probably a similar lineup that they closed with last night for their biggest, highest leverage minutes. And we'll see how he holds up. Again, talked to Darko last night sort of about you know, what he's looking for him as far as center things that he needs to improve upon, and the screening and sort of those little intricacies of rolling and kind of having the timing of pick and roll down was the thing he noted as like the thing he needs to improve on the most. And that stood out too, right? Like kind of, he rolls kind of wide when he's running pick and roll with Barrett in particular. Like he's not kind of offering a target in the middle. He's almost putting 2 defenders between him and Barrett. And so it kind of makes that connection difficult to achieve unless he's kind of going over the top. And so just kind of, again, those little sort of things that every center needs to do to sort of grease the wheels, the little micro things that Jakob Poeltl is so good at. It's going to be kind of a crash course in that stuff for Mogbo for sure with Poeltl out. Let's get to the, I have a quick one here. This Thursday, Raptors-Nets, going to be a banger. Can't wait. Tickets will be like $8. Go to Game Time. Buy your tickets. So for those who listen to this show, who have like kind of been wrapped in the online sphere of Raptors coverage, there's usually like a shorthand for random game in the season, 1 of 82 that doesn't mean a whole lot that the sickos really care about. For the longest time, that shorthand has been Raptors Hornets on a Wednesday in January. That's kind of what I say when, Raptors Hornets on a Wednesday in January. That's like the true like dog days of the season. I think it might be replaced forever by Raptors Nets on a Thursday in December after this coming game on Thursday. No Dennis Schroeder now for the Nets. They stink. They got cooked last night by the Cavs, I believe, which, hey, everyone gets cooked by the Cavs, but they looked awful. This game is going to be a real test of wills for anyone watching it, I think. That's my It's going to be, look, man, with no Jakob Poeltl, this tank is about to look a whole lot less ethical than it has so far. Hopefully they can pull out a win against the Nets and not fall to those depths, but it's going to be tough stuff here going forward. What's your
My watching Darko call timeout after timeout, being like, hey man, can we just like maybe run back on defense? I was like, hey, we got practice today. There's got to be some version of a coach issuing like a technical foul. And I think, there's got to be a few penalties paid today to get these guys in line. Like that was just really rough. And I think at a certain point, as opposed to just, as a player being there like, oh, okay, yeah, we're just going to have another timeout. There's got to be something that goes up here saying, oh man, if I don't get back this time, I know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The layup line is just everyone has to take a charge from Bruno Fernando and deal with it. That's how you punish everybody.
Yeah. You know what? Something along those lines works for me.
Reports coming out of practice. Raptors have 4 healthy players for the game against the Nets on Thursday. Bruno Fernando is one of them. Interesting.
It's all part of the plan.
Yeah. That tank, baby. It's like you said. The ethicalness is going out the window very, very soon here. If Yak can't get back and Scotty can't get back and IQ can't get back and everyone starts going down because they're taking charges from Bruno as punishment in practice. We're going to leave it there. Big V, thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks for putting up with my dulcet tones today. Do you have anything you want to promote for the good people out there?
Usual stuff, Raptors in 7, Sportsnet. I have also just last week started writing for Sportscasting. So you can catch general NBA content over at Sportscasting as well.
Excellent. Go do that. You can find me, Blue Sky, at woodleyshawn.bsky.social. We got the Discord, link in the description of the podcast. You get the Locked On Raptors Instagram and all that good stuff. And we'll talk to you again on hopefully Wednesday. We'll see how the voice is holding up. It turns out voice important for podcasts. So we'll see. I'll have some tea, see where we're at tomorrow. But in the meantime, check out the Locked On Raptors newsletter. You can go to the QR code on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, or you can go to the link in the description of the podcast. It's much appreciated when you go ahead and do that. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks so much for hanging. Bye-bye. Oh, man. 2 straight rim outs. Tough stuff.